Hey, sweetheart, so apparently I have to do this again. So, hello, sweethearts, this is Rowan again, and apparently October 11th is National Coming Out Day, and this is Nigel, and Nigel is gay because he thinks he's my boyfriend. But that's alright, because I, too, am gay. And I have a story about that. So, and here's how my train of thought works. So, I want to say it was 1924, gay as being synonymous with homosexual men, first was recorded as being used. So, it was probably in the lexicon, for a few years earlier, but it was first recorded in 1924. That's the earliest written example we have in anything published. And that was a shortened form of gay cat, just kind of all one word, or sometimes it would be split up into a two-word compound phrase. And that was slang for a male prostitute, usually young, usually homeless. Hello, Phoebe. 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 Just going handheld today. So, speaking of the 20s, I have a story for you from LGBT history, and this is the story of the death of, speaking of my cats and gay cats, this is a story about the death of the director Friedrich Wilhelm Murnau. Murnau was the name of the city, I believe, he was originally from, and I forget his, the surname he was born to, but, right, Phoebe? But yeah, my other cat is, my third cat is named Murnau, and I've named him after the director. And, F.W. Murnau is one of my favorite directors. He's right up there with Fritz Lang, and, of my silent directors, I love the Expressionists, Murnau, Lang, Vine, Robert Vine, all the Germans. It's actually harder for me to name, you can count, like, Guy Madden as a silent director. Like, half of his stuff is silent, in whole or in part. Which is how early talking films were. They were, at least partly silent. The Jazz Singer was actually silent except for Al Jolson's songs in it. That was the only sound part of that, and it's often credited as, the first talkie film. It's like, kinda, and, but yeah, it's actually harder for me to name, 3 or 4 sound directors who I really love. The main one that comes to me is Derek Jarman, and who is also gay, like F.W. Murnau. He was gay, and this was something that was kind of an open secret in the film industry, such as it was in the 1920s, and so, like I said, it was kind of an open secret. It was something that, everybody who worked with him knew about, certain people, like in the, in his outer social circles knew about it, but it wasn't something that was necessarily, admitted to in the press. Everybody who worked with him kept hushed about it. I can't remember if he ever, dodged any of those questions in interview, but he definitely didn't talk about it in the press because it would have been a career suicide. And in those days, here people, here now people are a lot less averse to it, but especially if you work in an artistic industry, But yeah, F.W. Murnau, he also was transition, so he, and I say transitioning, and I'm talking about as a film director, so transitioning from silent work to sound works. And he had made some transitional work towards sound work. One of his earlier sound films, and he co-directed that with somebody, but I only remember Murnau's name attached to it, and that was Taboo, Tabu. That was kind of mockumentary style, or at least that's what we'd call it now. But no, it was like, it was a story that they wrote very loosely, and they traveled to location to tell this story in a documentary-style format. It was set in Polynesia, on a Polynesian island. But another one, the last film he made was Sunrise, A Song of Two Humans. And then what happened is, shortly after it was released, and it was released to wide acclaim, it is still consistently on top 100 lists of greatest films ever made. And this is going on 100 years after it was made. It was released in 1931, I believe. So yeah, we're like 90 some years. We're almost 90 years after it was made, and it still consistently enters the list of top 100 films ever made. Ever. And when it was released, it was praised as the greatest film ever made. And there were some there were some monumentally, adventurous films made in the 20s and up to 1931 at that point, like Fritz Lang's Metropolis. That is one of my favorites. And, and people were saying that Sunrise was greater than Metropolis. And if you've ever seen Metropolis, it's like, it can blow your mind, like, how much people were praising Sunrise by F.W. Murnau. When it's like, Metropolis? Wow. So this is how praised he was, but he died in an automobile accident. And usually when you look up his death, it will just simply state he died in an automobile accident. But the circumstances of his automobile accident were quite scandalous. It would even be scandalous today. His neck snapped while he was servicing his houseboy, his Filipino houseboy. So, he was taking care of a young man who was working for him, and I remember his houseboy, chauffeur kind of person. I do remember he survived, but I forget how badly injured he was by the accident, but Murnau's neck snapped, so he died pretty much instantly in this auto wreck. And so, but of course, this was all over Los Angeles, and he'd relocated from Germany about a couple years prior to that, to Los Angeles from Germany, pretty much because, that was around the time that things were starting to get very, very ugly in Germany, and you know the year I'm talking about. This is 1931, so, 29-30, when he, officially moved to Los Angeles, you know what was going on in Germany, so, and he was gay. He was gay. He was quite gay. And 6'3". Oh. But, so yeah, it was all over the tabloid press. And, the more respectable papers did downplay this, but, it was all over, and, that, he died servicing his servant, and it was such a scandal in Hollywood at the time that he was probably the most acclaimed director who had released possibly the most acclaimed film only a year before. Less than a dozen people attended his funeral. One of whom was Greta Garbo, who, it's since been, confirmed, though, again, it was an open secret during her life that she was bisexual and tended to prefer women. So, not only did they bond as friends, being both immigrants, living in Los Angeles and working in the film industry. She was from Sweden, he was from Germany, but, they also bonded as, MLM, WLW solidarity. So, but yeah, she kept his death mask. So that would be the plaster cast mask of his face made after made post-mortem. She kept that on her desk for the rest of her life, and so yeah. That's my coming out day video. I can probably do other ones of these from gay goth history. So yeah, like, subscribe, bell notifications, all that happy horse shit, and bats and kisses, and I love you, and my kitties love you, and, well, Nigel loves me, and that's about it. He loves the other cats, but as far as people goes, he loves me, and that's about it. Right, Nugget? My neighbor, Nigel boy, I love you. Do you love the people? He loves you. And just, he doesn't want to be this close to you. He wants to be this close to me. But, alright, there we go. It's time to take off. Bats and kisses again, and I love you, and goodbye.